today we're going to begin reading a book about mythological creatures from ancient Greece and Rome. But before we do that, I want to know what sorts of creatures that you know about. So what sorts of monsters have you read about or watched on TV or in movies?
Werewolves.
Okay.
The Bunny Man.
The Bunny Man, the local one, okay. Very good. So there's all sorts of different kinds of monsters that we know about. And they've got a lot of different personalities. Some are scary, some are not. So the book that we're going to begin reading today is called Greece, Rome Monsters, and it talks about all of the monsters from the myths that we've talked about. And in social studies, we've learned about all of the many gods and goddesses and the stories that the Greeks and Romans made up about them called myths. Well, in those myths, they also included the creatures that those people came across as well. So, does this creature look real to you?
No.
No. So while these creatures are not real in our world, this text is considered a non-fiction text because these include real myths that were believed by real people. So this is something that they believed in, so it's not just a made-up story to them, so we call it non-fiction. Before we start reading, we want to go through our text features because that's one of the most important things that you can do. So first, we have our table of monsters. Now, what text feature does this look like that you know?
Table of contents.
Table of contents. So all this is that it lists all of the different monsters that are included in this book. And you can go ahead and take a look at them and just see what we're going to read about. And they are all in ABC order, which is also the same order that we're going to come across them in the book. And now, if we flip to the back, they've included a pronunciation guide to help us pronounce the names of these monsters and some of the people that they talk about. So, because most of these creatures were created in ancient Greece and Rome, their names are not in our language and they're very difficult to say most of the time. So, whenever you find a tricky word, you're going to flip to the back, check out this guide, and it'll help you pronounce it so that you can get on with your reading. All right. So, let's go over some of our vocab words. So in this book, there are a couple words that we are going to come across that might be tricky or that we might not know the meaning to. So we're going to review those so that we can really get the full understanding of the book. Our first word is realm. Have you ever heard of the word realm before?
No.
No? Okay. So underneath each word, I'm going to write the way that you pronounce it so that when you're reading, you can help you to sound it out. So a realm is just a kingdom or a world. So if I were a king, I could say I'm ruling over my realm, and it's just everything that he rules over. And in this book, we come across it when we're talking about Cerberus, the dog that guards the entrance to the underworld. They call it a gloomy realm because the underworld was where people believed that they would go after they had passed away. So it wasn't the happiest place, which is why they called it a gloomy realm, or just really a sad place. And next, we have the word nuisance. Now, you might have heard of this one, you might have not. We heard of nuisance before?
I have.
You have? Okay. What do you think a nuisance is?
It's like somebody that's like a bad influence.
Be a bad influence, okay. Because they're doing what?
Because they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
Okay. It's a pretty good example. So a nuisance is just something or someone that is being annoying. So if the author is describing one of these monsters as a nuisance, do you really like it very much?
No.
No, not at all. A nuisance is not something that we really want to be around. Okay? So look out for that word and how to say it. And then the last word that we're going to talk about is violent. Now, I know that you've heard this word before. So, name something for me that is violent.
Killers.
Killers, okay. Certainly violent. Okay, what else?
Bad people.
Bad people in general,
Mean
maybe people that are fighting or something.
People that are fighting.
Okay, so being violent is just something that's dangerous or aggressive. makes you feel uncomfortable or like you're not safe. So that's what violent is. Certainly like a war or a fight or an argument can be violent. So when the author is describing one of these monsters as violent, do you want to be near them?
No.
No, that is probably not a safe place. So when they are talking about things that are violent, steer clear. All right, so today we're going to read only the first 5 monsters in here. There's a monster on each page. So we're going to stop reading after you get to the Cyclops. So you'll stop reading after you read Cyclops. And what you're going to be looking for when you're reading today is 2 different things. The author's purpose, and also you're going to be working on making inferences. So like I said, this is an informational text. So what is the author trying to do here? Is he trying to persuade me, inform me, or entertain me?
Inform.
Inform, yeah, he's trying to inform me about all the different personalities and stories that the Greeks and Romans made up for these creatures. Now it's also entertaining because it's pretty pictures and his writing has a lot of fun style to it, but it's mainly to inform. And so as he's using specific words to inform us, we need to worry about what inferences we're making. So what are we taking from what he's writing? So we're going to practice that with this reading guide that you will have as you're reading. So after you finish each page with your monster, you're going to go to your reading guide. And for each monster, you've got 2 different questions. The first question says, how does the author make you feel about this monster? So you're going to tell us how you feel about it. And then you're going to give me evidence. So you're going to go back to the text and find evidence for why you felt that way. So it could be a quote or a word or just a little phrase that made you feel the way that you feel. So we are going to model this together. We'll do basilisk first. Now I have trouble saying the word basilisk because it's kind of tricky, so bear with me. Okay, so pay close attention because you're going to answer these questions after we finish reading. One look from him and whammo, you're dead. That's a basilisk for you. And that's where we get the strange expression, a basilisk gaze. A basilisk was basically a snake, but a snake with a difference. It had the head, feet, and wings of a rooster and the tail of a dragon. How's this for gross? If you were stung by a basilisk, your flesh would fall off your bones. A basilisk often has a crowny thing on its head. Here comes His Royal Highness the Basilisk. Run for your life. All right, so how does the author make you feel about this monster?
That he's dangerous, maybe a little bit violent.
Okay, he's dangerous. And where's your evidence for that?
Here comes His Royal Highness the Basilisk. Run for your life.
Run for your life, certainly. Good job. So that's what you're going to do. These are the types of questions you're going to ask yourself after you read each story about a different monster. And by the end of this book, you will have read and learned about all the different personalities of the monsters that we're talking about, which is the author's main purpose. Okay? So, what I want you to do now is you're going to go into silent reading. So you're going to read those first 5 stories by yourself and keep your reading guide handy. And remember, stop after you read Cyclops, and then you can take a little bit more time on your work. Okay? All right, you can go ahead. Go ahead and finish up the one that you're working on. Alright, so now that we're back together, and you've read through those stories, what's something that you learned? Give me a fun fact about one of the creatures.
Servius is very mean, and he doesn't let people out of Hades.
Okay, so that's something that you learned for sure. Alright, so now let's go through your reading guide and review that. So let's start with Centaur since we already did Basilisk. So how do you feel about the Centaur?
He's wild and fun to be around, and he's sort of a party animal.
Okay, so is a party animal part from the text?
Yes.
Good, alright. So then move on to Cerberus. How did you feel about him?
He's very mean.
Okay, and what made you feel that way?
Because he doesn't let the spirits out of Hades.
Yeah, it specifically says, but he didn't let them out. Good. And what about the next one? It's Chimera.
She's annoying and ugly.
Okay, and what made you feel that way about her?
Because it says that she's a nuisance.
She's a nuisance, so our word over here, so Chimera is the one that's annoying. Interesting. And our last one, the Cyclops, how did you feel about him?
I think that he's aggressive and sort of scary looking.
Okay, and what part of the text made you feel that way?
Because it says that he's violent, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, right here. He's very violent.
Very violent.
And he's a huge guy.
Yeah, so good. You were spot on. You got a lot of information from what the author provided, so good job. All right, so I'll take this and we keep this by if you need it. All right, you get a fresh piece, but right now I want you to close your eyes. All right. Imagine that it is 500 BC and you are in ancient Greece. You're walking through the streets of Athens, you're seeing people, you're walking up on the Acropolis Rock and past the Parthenon, and then all of a sudden, you see one of the monsters that we just read about. Open your eyes. Which monster did you see? You don't have to tell me out loud. This is what you're going to write about. So you're going to tell me about what monster you ran into and the story about what happened from then on. Okay, so it can be one of the friendly ones, it can be one of the scary ones, because it might be a better story for you. So you're gonna give me at least 4 sentences. 4 to 5 is really good. And once you finish your story, and make sure to include some facts from the book, so if you need to open it back, you can go through. Once you finish your story, I will check it off, and then on the back or on the side where you have room, you can illustrate it. We'll put it in the hallway. All right, any questions?
Nope.